Nick, so good to see you. Today we're getting
Hey.
back to basics. What is IRMA and how does it affect what you will pay for Medicare Part B? If the Social Security Administration considers you a high income beneficiary, you will pay a surcharge known as the income related monthly adjustment amount. It's a mouthful. And how high is high income?
Uh, well, Irma's kind of a bad word around here.
Yeah,
A few years ago here in Florida, Irma was a hurricane,
same,
um,
same.
and and I thought it was appropriate, right? You know, because what happens is if you make too much and you're retired and you're on Medicare, here's this thing called Irma, and right, we'll go over this. It's like a financial hurricane. I think about it like the old Blockbuster Video. If you remember when you had late fees, you thought you were just renting a movie, but then later on, you got hit with some unexpected charges. And I
Hmm.
almost look at that as Irma. And
Hmm.
what Irma does is it looks back 2 years at your tax return. So for 2026, they're going to look at 2024 and they're going to look at where you fell. And if you're single and you made above $109,000, well, then you're going to be paying more in your Medicare premiums. If you're married and you're making above 218,000, again, this is when Medicare starts adding these surcharges, but they're going back 2 whole years. And you know what? I don't know about you, but I forgot what I ate yesterday. So I don't know about this whole 2 year thing. It's kind of confusing.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people don't realize too that IRMA is a cliff. $1
Right.
too much, and you're paying a completely different premium.
Well, do you remember the Price is Right?
I
If you
do.
bid over $1, what happened?
Yeah,
You
wrong.
lost. And so Irma works the same way. $1 can make all that difference. And you know, I had a pool growing up as a kid. I don't know about you. I had a pool. I actually had a diving board, one of the big, long, nice diving boards. And you could walk all the way up to that diving board, but then fall right in. And that's what this is. It's like you're standing on the edge of a diving board and one more step, and now you're in this whole next pool of higher premiums. There's no warning, there's no heads up letter that you get in the mail. If you're $1 over, now your premiums go into maybe hundreds or thousands of dollars. And again, they look back 2 whole years.
Hmm.
So let's say that you took out $50,000 for a kitchen upgrade out of an IRA. And let's say you did that in 2024. And let's say it's now 2026 or 2024, you were working too. And let's say you're working, you made $60,000. So you took out 50,000 for home improvements out of an IRA. You made $60,000. You made essentially $110,000. You're over that $109,000 threshold. So now in 2026, you're punished for what you did all the way back in 2024. Your Medicare premiums go up. And that number that you're showing there on the screen, that is per person.
Right.
That's not the household. So per person, it's like $203. But if you just make one little error, now all of a sudden it's going up by $82. That's $164 a month. You're talking over $1,000 a year in extra
Hmm.
premiums for what you did 2 years before.
Hmm. And just break this down to me for me, because I
Yeah.
find IRMA very complicated. How does this all relate back to Medicare Part B?
So Medicare Part B is your doctor visit. Okay. So Part A is your hospital. That's typically premium free. But Part B is your doctor visit. So most people are just like you showed on the screen there a little bit ago, they're paying about $203. But what happens is the more income that you show, the more they charge. And the highest level can be $690 per person. So think about that. If you're a couple, it's $406. But if you're at the highest level, that's $1,380. It's three times more. And
Right.
you don't get better Medicare for that. You don't it's just a bigger bill. And how how I would think about that is, and I've had this happen to myself a few times in life where I found out on airplanes and different things that I paid a certain price for my ticket, but the person next to me paid a whole heck of a lot less. And you know, it would be like going to a Billy Joel concert and sitting there ahead of time and knowing what you paid and making a comment about, oh my gosh, I can't believe how expensive these tickets were. And the person sitting next to you looks at you and says, oh, yeah, I paid like $40. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Can you
Hmm.
imagine the steam that would be rolling out of my ears? And that's what's happening is you have people that are making too much, and now all of a sudden the Medicare premiums that they've been paying taxes on their whole life, Now they've got to pay even more. And you should see the steam rolling out, rightfully so, the steam rolling out of their ears. It can be a really big thing and you can't get away from it. And it doesn't just affect Part B, your doctor, but it
Right.
can also affect what you pay in your Part D, which is your drug
Right.
plan. Your drugs can actually be higher too because of that.
Yeah, now I want to circle back to the 2-year look back that you mentioned because of
Yeah,
course, that catches a lot of people off guard because all of a sudden they're hit with this fee that happened from a
right,
financial event that happened 2 years ago.
right.
Walk me through some of those events that bump up your income and tend to catch people off guard.
So, um, years ago, one of the movies when I was a kid, I watched over and over and over again, and probably have it memorized, was Back to the Future.
Great movie.
And yeah, and when you go back in time, what you did in the past affected what you did in the future. So that's what they said: is don't mess with the timeline. Don't go in the past and make changes because you're going to change your future. And that's what this really is. It's like it's like doing something today, and the consequences don't show up until like 2 years into the future. So things like selling a home, taking a minimum distribution, maybe Roth conversions, these are all things that can trigger that. And so what I look at it is I almost look at it like a puzzle. Okay. And I think we have a slide for this, right? Your biggest liability that people don't understand when it comes to taxes is really your 401ks and your IRAs.
Yeah.
That's pre-tax money. You never took a dollar out of that. So if you take money out of those accounts, it gets counted as earned income. And then you've got savings that's maybe counting into dividends and interest and capital gains, and investments that's maybe spinning off dividends and interest and capital gains, and maybe pension income. And all that could result in your Social Security being taxed.
Right.
But another thing, too, it might not just be your Social Security that's getting taxed. It could also mean higher IRMA taxes, too, because of what's happening. So realizing capital gains or large investments can trigger it. Inheritances. This is a
Yeah.
huge one. Let's say you get an inherited IRA. You know, mom and dad died, passed away. They leave you with a $5,000 or $500,000 IRA inheritance. Well, you have something now called the 10-year rule. And what that basically means is over 10 years, you got to spend that IRA down whether you want to or not.
Right.
So $500,000, let's just say you got to pull out $50,000 a year out of that IRA, completely taxable. And let's say you're still working and you're making $60,000. There you are again. You're going over that limit. That forced RMD is pushing you into IRMA risk. And that stays with you all the time. And this is why a lot of people, I've actually had people tell me, Nick, I'm scared. I inherited money. I thought it was a good thing, but now I'm afraid that I'm going to have this IRMA forever. And that is a really bad place to be because it gives you that feeling that you have no control.
Right.
And there are a lot of things that you can do where you can get control.
Well, and one of them is filling out a particular form, right, for a life-changing event. Have you helped
Right.
clients with that?
Correct. Yeah. You can fill out and ask for, I guess you could call it forgiveness. There is a form that you can do that. And sometimes people will do it too if they're saying, hey, 2 years ago I worked. Now I no longer work.
Right.
So don't increase my Medicare premiums because of that. And that can tend to work. But this is sometimes what I find is people are oblivious to those things, and it's not the one-time things. Sometimes because of how they're structured with their finances and where their money is invested, they're setting themselves up to have escalating taxes over their life, and as a result, keep themselves at IRMA risk, and that's kind of the problem there.
Right. So, I mean, I understand there are so many moving parts, but let's talk
Yeah.
through 3 strategies then to reduce your chances that you're going to get hit with that surcharge. Something we've talked about many times before, Roth conversions.
Love it. Strategic Roth integration, paying basically taxes when you want to, not when the IRS wants you to.
Right.
And converting smaller amounts over time makes a lot of sense. A lot of people think, oh, I can do that Roth conversion, but I'm going to have to pay all those taxes all at one time. No, convert smaller amounts and do that over several years. And what that does is that takes those IRAs off the line because you've essentially paid the taxes earlier, and then later on, you don't have those minimum distributions that can push you into higher IRMA. And
Hmm.
so getting rid of it sooner than later can really help.
Hmm. And then next we have health savings accounts, which are uniquely triple tax advantaged.
So these are awesome because let's say that you're right up on a threshold and oh my gosh, I'm really close to that 109,000 or whatever it is at that one level. I mean, obviously there's other levels. And HSA, whatever you put into it, gets tax deferred. So that can help back you off of those thresholds if you're really close to it.
Mhm.
And again, triple tax benefits. Not only do you get the tax deduction to keep you out of those levels, but then it grows tax free, and then when you take that money out, or tax deferred, they say, but when you take that money out, it's taken out tax free if it's for a qualifying medical expense. So another wonderful idea.
Mhm. And you mentioned required minimum distributions
I
before,
did.
which tend to throw people off when it comes to that
Yeah.
taxable income. One strategy that you love, qualified charitable distributions. How do these work?
So many of the families that we work with, Aaron, they are charitably inclined,
Right.
whether that's through their church, their charity. I have lots of people. They love their pets, they love their animals, and they give money to animal shelters or mission trips and different things like that. So, a qualified charitable distribution, what typically people do when they take their IRA minimum distributions out at 73 is they take that money, and then what they do is they take it, they take those withdrawals, they dump it down in the bank, and then they cut a check to their charity, but they get no deduction for it. A qualified charitable distribution, and then what happens with that is, as far as IRMA goes, whatever they took out in that minimum distribution gets counted
Right.
towards IRMA. Whereas if you were already giving money to charity anyway, just have that minimum distribution go directly from your IRA directly to the charity. And now all of a sudden, if you gave $10,000, now that's $10,000 that's not reported because it went as a QCD to the charity. They still get their money. You still took your minimum distribution, but now all of a sudden it's not counted towards IRMA. And so that's another wonderful way of doing things. Wow, you're on a roll. Those three are awesome, Aaron. Great job.
You've taught me a lot, Nick.
And I have a lot of this already before I even started talking with you.
Well, I think the QCD is one of my favorites too, because as you mentioned, there are so many people who are already donating. The way I like to explain it
Yeah.
is if you're putting money in the collection plate and you're over 70 and a half, right, there's probably a more tax efficient way to do it.
Yeah, and that's definitely the reason for doing that. Just like a lot of people now, they're so thrilled because, oh my gosh, my bank CD is paying me more, and I'm getting interest on money market accounts, and they're so giddy and happy about that. And I think that's great. The problem is the taxation on it.
Yeah.
So I just had a person come in who had $1.5 million, $1.5 million all in a CD, earning 4%.
Yeah.
So that meant, and they weren't using this money, and they don't intend to use this money ever. Their income is really good. So they were getting this interest and they were paying IRMA taxes, and they were deep into IRMA by about $50,000 over the limits. But $60,000 of was interest. That $1.5 million in CDs was paying them 4%. That means $60,000 was getting reported on their taxes
Yeah.
on money that they weren't using. So what we talked about with them was let's use more tax efficient, tax deferred, tax sheltered strategies, still earn the interest, but earn it in a tax deferred way so that you don't have that affecting you and you don't have that IRMA forever situation.
Yeah, Irma to me more than anything else really is about threading the needle with the 2-year look back and this tax bracket, but this Irma bracket. There's so much to consider. Nick, if somebody would like to sit down with you to learn more about this, make sure that they are set, especially if you're 63 creeping up into Medicare age, what's the
Mhm.
best way to reach you?
Like you said, it's like this big puzzle, right? It's a
Yeah.
thousand-piece puzzle, and you got to thread the needle. And so go to our website, group10financial.com. I would encourage people because this is taxes. This isn't anything that you can read about and make sure, oh, yeah, I can get this. This isn't something you can chat GPT either because chat is using rules from a couple years ago that give you advice today. So what I would suggest, what I would encourage you to do is set up a 15-minute telewealth strategy call with us. During that call, what we can do is actually see if you are at IRMA risk and what can be done to alleviate that. So you can go to our website, group10financial.com. You can also call us at 844 Group 10 and schedule a 15-minute, again, telewealth strategy call. Pretty no pressure. Just an opportunity to see if you are at risk before, because it's hard to fix it after the fact.
Right. Good point. Nick, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Great being with you.